and a key subject which many people have got huge concerns about, and that's geoengineering. But of course, some of it we can see, some of it is visible, and some of it is almost hidden in plain sight. And to really start to take some of this apart, we need to be very sure what's factual and what's not. But what have you got for us?
Yes, thanks, Brian. And just to reiterate one more time, I do love carbon dioxide. It's been all over the mainstream news in the last few days and on social media as a result that we should just be looking up. They're doing this, they're doing this. So here's one example from The Guardian, saying UK scientists to launch outdoor geoengineering experiments. Blocking the sunlight could temporarily slow the climate crisis, but the technologies remain highly controversial. So similar stories all over the place the last few days. This is referring to a £56 million set of projects funded by ARIA, the Advanced Research and Invention Agency. I won't go into ARIA in detail because we've been covering ARIA on UK columns since 2021. And it's a UK, it's under the UK Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. It's very secretive. You are not allowed to send freedom of information requests to ARIA because they will not respond to them. Last week, I sent out a post on X that mentioned the report that I did on geoengineering 2 weeks ago. And even though my post got almost no views 2 weeks ago when I did it, it now has over 11,000 views, just to show you how popular this topic is becoming. So this project through ARIA is sort of the brainchild of Professor Mark Symes from the University of Glasgow. And his quote about the project, which is on the ARIA website, is that decarbonization is vital, but our current progress puts us at risk of triggering a large number of temperature-induced climate tipping points. The program will explore critical unanswered questions as to how or whether we might cool the Earth safely and responsibly on the timescales required to avoid climate catastrophe. So the background to Professor Symes is that he was in the first cohort of program directors, as they're called at ARIA, which started in October of 2023, and he's now finished his time in that role. There's now 8 new program directors. What the program directors do is they create what are called opportunity spaces, which they say are important but underexplored areas of research that we believe are ripe for breakthroughs. They each serve as a bedrock for multi-year programs directed by our program directors. And so this was his idea as the program director. His opportunity space was called Future-Proofing Our Climate and Weather. And Charles Mallett first mentioned that back on UK Column News on the 22nd of May, 2024. The website has a page explaining the program under the opportunity space, which is called Exploring Climate Cooling. And what this slide that I've got up here now is from a video that he used to explain to people who wanted to apply for the funding what they would be funding. So possible research areas include, for example, stratospheric aerosol injection, read called brightening, cloud thinning, cloud cover control, space-based reflectors, ice thickening manipulation, and other, whatever that is. So that's the £56 million project in a very quick summary. But what I want to go further into is not just looking up, but also we need to be looking down into the water. And I want to talk about what is not being covered, which is what they're doing to our seas. One project that's been circulating recently, I've seen a bit on mainstream news, here's from the BBC, is about sucking carbon out of the sea. This project is called SeaCure, Seawater Carbon Unlocking and Renewal. This is funded by the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. It will not be funded through the sale of carbon or carbon removal credits, apparently. The partners are Brunel University London, a company that works with water companies throughout the UK and Ireland. And what do we know about water around the country? Called Ilico Hydrock, University of Exeter, and Plymouth Marine Laboratory. Professor Tom Bell is of Plymouth Marine Laboratory, right down the street near you, Brian and Ben. He said that SeaCure is a project investigating an ocean carbon dioxide removal technique that involves using the natural processes of the ocean like a sponge, wringing out the sponge to remove the carbon to be stored geologically, and then releasing that low carbon water back into the ocean, where it sits and absorbs the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and thus releasing carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. And now I want to go into seaweed, because seaweed apparently is becoming a very important material. back in 2019, this Plymouth Marine Laboratory published an article called Seaweed Potential in the Southwest, which said seaweed is an underutilized and undercultivated commodity, but offers huge potential variety of products. And let's hear what Prince William had to say about seaweed back in December. The title of the full video, which we won't see the whole thing of, is Prince William and Hannah Waddingham Play Darts. This was from December 2024.
The most important question, sir, that I need to ask you is, what on earth is your obsession with seaweed all about? Why have you got a fixation on seaweed?
Through Earthshot, I've suddenly realised how important seaweed is. It sequesters carbon. So when I say sequester, it draws down carbon.
Thank you.
It cleans the oceans, so it has a natural cleansing process. It takes pollutants and toxics out of the water, and you can make things from it. And in 2022, one of our finalists, Nopla, which stands for not plastic.
I remember Nopla.
And they created effectively plastic everything, but through seaweed.
From seaweed.
So Prince William, our future king, is very excited about seaweed. Another project that is going on related to seaweed is just also from Plymouth Marine Laboratory, has just become fully operational. Young seaweed has been planted near a wind farm in the Netherlands. So let's hear from the professor who is in charge of this particular project. Her name is Anja Quiñeros.
So this is a particularly exciting project. So what we're doing is we're looking at a potentially large-scale activity of seaweed farming offshore. And what we're trying to do is try to understand the potential to grow that seaweed offshore using wind farms as the infrastructure supporting them, and trying to understand what is the capacity of that business and what are the carbon fluxes associated with it and the potential biodiversity value. Seaweed in particular have received a lot of attention in the last decade because they have very high rates of CO2 absorption. So they are one of the main sinks of CO2 in the ocean in terms of rates per gram of biomass. However, the challenge with seaweed is that the seaweed in themselves don't sequester carbon, so they don't hold the carbon for a very long period. And so the challenge here is to try and understand what happens to seaweed carbon in the long term. PML are the lead scientific institution in the project, and what we bring is the expertise that we've been developing in recent years in the ability to follow carbon and seaweed detritus from farms and natural seaweed habitats to the seafloor where it might be sequestered. The main interest for PML is really to understand whether we can support the growth of the industry in a way that is sustainable. So we're talking about managing the marine environment and adding potentially quite large-scale activities. Our interest is in understanding the carbon value of these farmed habitats, their impacts on the global carbon cycle, and also their impacts on local biodiversity. There is the suggestion that these seaweed farms could have positive effects on local biodiversity, so we'll be measuring that. And in future, what we hope is to be able to inform policy that might allow us to grow the sector in a way that is good for business, but also good for the ocean.
So I don't really know what all of that meant. I'm not sure she did either. So I got in touch with Alex Thompson because he lives in the Netherlands, of course, and I wanted to know what he knew about this wind farm and the seaweed farm, if anything. And so he sent me a voice message in reply. So let's listen to what he said, please.
I had heard vaguely that there was talk of massive offshore wind farms in that sector. Not sure how Amazon got so dominant. I do know that the Belgian sector of the shallow North Sea coast, so just south of where these are going up, in the southern Dutch sector, the Belgian sector in some parts is a chemical soup and increasingly toxic because a lot of First World War munitions were dumped on the continental shelf there, and after 100+ years the cases are starting to rot and all kinds of goop is leaking out in a massively busy shipping lane. And it's not that much less severe in this southern Netherlands stretch. There's quite a lot of shipping going past, and it's extremely shallow.
So really not good news about the chemical information there that he shared. The reason he mentioned Amazon, I should have said before, is that Amazon is actually funding this project with the seaweed farm for whatever reason. They have a climate change fund that they decide what they're going to fund on that. So So moving on from there, I just again want to encourage people to look at official good sources and not get panicked, not get emotional. The Met Office does have a position on geoengineering research on their webpage. They do say that their contribution will be based on, that was my emphasis, simulations using climate models. We do not advocate or provide context for real world physical experiments. So I maybe just have some questions there about what their contribution is, not they say what it is based on, but what is the contribution? Just this morning, I was watching Wake Up with Sonia Poulton, and she had a guest on who mentioned this particular report, Dan Stevens. This is from the House of Commons, the regulation of geoengineering. This was printed in March 2010. I haven't read about it because I just heard about it, but I would take a look at that as well. It's 116 pages long, so that will give you something to look at for sure. And there is a petition that has been circulating. It took a while to take some traction, but I think because of all the mainstream coverage, it's really gone out there. Last time I looked this morning, it had around 85,000 signatures. And so we want to at least get it to 100,000. But at the same time, will they do anything? Probably not, because this all ties in with them meeting the goals of the Paris Agreement. So whether or not it will make a difference, we don't know, but we have to try. And just finally, I'd like to end on this meme I saw over the weekend. You see all of them laughing at us. First, we'll force them to rely on solar farms for electricity. Then we'll block out the sun. Great.
We have to laugh, Diane, but overall it is unbelievably serious to see what these people think they can do, which is control the world, control space even. We have to stay on top of it. We have to keep reporting what the real facts and information around this is. And of course, people have to become active. So once again, I'm going to say, Kathy, who was with us today, one of those people who's out and about doing things. If you're trying to counter what's happening and you've got a specialist area, by all means, stay in that, do your best, encourage other people to join you, but don't point a finger at people who've got other priorities. This is a battle that needs to be shared. And if we work together as one big team in nation states and across the world, we can do something to stop this appalling agenda. Let's end there. Thank you all very much for joining me today. We will have an extra in a few minutes for UK column members. We will see you then. Otherwise, UK column will be back at the same time on Wednesday. Bye-bye.